All right, everybody. We are very excited. My name is Arun Gupta, and today I'm here with Gijun Wailanga and Eben Haber. Gijun, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm the product manager for NetBeans, and I've been working with NetBeans since about 2004, when it was part of Sun, and also since the takeover by Oracle, still working on NetBeans, still spreading the word and getting people involved in Java and in JavaScript and in various technologies. And I'm really looking forward to integrating tools for working with Couchbase and NetBeans.
Excellent. And Eben?
Hi, I've been with Couchbase about a year, working on improving how to make Couchbase more usable in terms of tooling. I've got a long background in databases. Way back in the early 90s, I was working on object-oriented databases when everybody knew that was the future. And I've also done studies of IT administration. So there's actually a book I co-authored with colleagues at IBM on the problems in making IT systems usable. So this is an area near and dear to my heart.
Excellent. So I think we have a good combination here. And my name is Arun Gupta. I've known Gijun forever. You know, we have spoken at multiple events.
Forever.
Yeah, almost feels like forever. I've been using NetBeans forever. I'm a big fan of NetBeans. That is my primary IDE. To date, I look at other IDEs, but I always fall back on NetBeans. And now I work at Couchbase. So my history is I've worked with Gijun at Sun and then Oracle, and even at Red Hat, even though we were in separate companies, but we continue to work very closely. I'm one of the NetBeans Dream Team members. So I thought this will be a good initiative where we will do a multi-part hacking series where we will start from ground zero, but hopefully over the next few weeks, we'll be able to build a Couchbase plugin for NetBeans. So that's sort of the intent over here. So you'll be able to learn how to do a NetBeans plugin and also possibly integrate other NoSQL databases in NetBeans as well. All right? Cool. So I think what we will get started with, I am going to share my screen here. So let me start with that. Okay. So of course, I have NetBeans running at a given point of time, anytime and all the time. So this is my NetBeans. Gijun, so now let's talk about it a little bit. I see the database is here. Let me remove this guy here. I don't want it here right now. Now, does NetBeans provide support for NoSQL databases?
Well, NetBeans provides support for whatever you want to plug into it. So I think the first question is, what is your workflow right now with Couchbase and NetBeans? And looking at your workflow, we'll be able to see what kind of requirements we have for the Couchbase plugin.
Okay, that's fair. So, and Eben, kind of picking up some part of your brain as well, in the sense, what is typically when you create tools here at Couchbase, when you create these tools, what's sort of the workflow? Like, let's say from a Java developer perspective, what's typically a workflow that you would expect to look like?
Can you clarify sort of the workflow for whom? For myself or for somebody who wants to use Couchbase?
Who wants to use Couchbase, yeah. So like, let's say if somebody wants to use Couchbase in NetBeans or in Eclipse or in IntelliJ or any of those tools, what would the workflow look like? But let's keep our discussion focused on NetBeans for today.
Okay. So the big deal with Couchbase, or the most important thing to start with is to decide which of the SDKs you want to use, since Couchbase has support for access from a wide variety of environments, whether that is, we have a very nice Java SDK, we have access from C and C++, from Python, and the list goes on and on and on. And so depending upon what kind of application you're developing, we probably have an SDK that you can access very well. And so that's the first starting point. So with NetBeans, I expect you're going to be using Java, and so I've been using the Java SDK in Eclipse. It works very nicely in providing the latest version of the SDK supports reactive Java, RxJava, which handles asynchronous access very nicely. So you don't know how long a call to the database is going to take, and so or how quickly results are going to be coming back. And so the RxJava extensions do a really nice job of allowing you to specify that very cleanly.
That's nice. So, Gideon, in that sense, just like NetBeans, which is a polyglot IDE, it supports a variety of languages. Couchbase has a whole bunch of languages, Java, .NET, Node.js, all of those. If I'm a Java developer, let's keep that as sort of my use case. Then I will build like a Java EE application. From the Java EE application, I want to connect with, to a Couchbase instance, for example, and today, for example, if I build a Java EE application, I say run. It automatically fires up the underlying Glassfish or Wildfly server for me. And then it also fires up the Java DB or Derby server for me. That's what I would expect. So I would say, here you go. Take this Java EE application, go deploy this on Wildfly. So it'll run Wildfly, and it recognizes, oh, by the way, it uses the underlying Couchbase server. It's going to fire up a Couchbase server. Now that's sort of the first shot of it. But then subsequently, what I would like to do is I want to click on Couchbase. I don't know, for example, in Couchbase what kind of buckets exist. So show me the buckets that exist over there. To be able to query Couchbase and show the list of buckets.
Is there a Couchbase API that we can use? A tooling API?
Oh yeah.
Does that exist?
The current API supports allowing you to find out what buckets exist. Now, in Couchbase, buckets are something somewhat analogous to databases or perhaps tables. They're somewhere in between. They are a collection of documents. And so right now, the API provides support for finding out what are the names of those and connecting to them and retrieving documents. What I've been working on recently is the ability to learn more about the contents of those buckets of documents.
So we recently built, Evan is actually working on a query workbench, by which we can bring up the tool, and the tool shows the list of buckets, and then you can look at a little bit more details about those buckets. So there is not a public API, but there is an API that can possibly be used from NetBeans plugin. Is that right, Adam?
Yes. So there's some code.
So where can we get this API? Let's start from there. Where is this API?
Okay, so the API the Java SDK has the basic API for retrieving what buckets exist. The code for finding out more, for describing those buckets, is not yet publicly available, but should be shortly, as part of the Couchbase Labs project. And so I will leave it as the description. I will show you how it works, and then at a future time I'll show you how to get it and how to work with that.
So here we are at the Java SDK tutorial. Somewhere we will see the Java docs.
Download it from the API reference.
But is there a piece of code? Is there? I think when I'm trying to integrate with some other technology from NetBeans, like in this case Couchbase, what is really helpful is to have like 5 or 6 lines of code that give you access to the using your API to the highest level buckets or whatever it is. And then once we have made that connection, we can work from there. But I think a basic Hello World Couchbase plugin for NetBeans would be to make a connection via your API to the highest level, whatever it is, and display it in a node hierarchy within NetBeans.
Right. So,
scroll down and you'll see the Hello World.
Oh, right here?
Yes. So,
no. So that's from the user perspective. Yeah. Well, this is from the user perspective, where it says Couchbase cluster create. but this is making the connection and querying the database. I think he's looking more from the tooling perspective. So this is how an application code would be written.
But could this be used by a plugin to query a Couchbase cluster? It could, couldn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay, perfect. So this is the code, yeah. Well, another twist in the whole thing is Couchbase also has a JDBC driver. Now, it's a JDBC driver, and the way I played with it earlier, the way I configured Couchbase in my NetBeans instances, I downloaded that JDBC driver, and using that JDBC driver, I actually had, like if I go back here in NetBeans, for example, in services, I could say, oh, show me your driver. And so, for example, you can see I have a Couchbase JDBC driver already pre-configured. Now, if I just fire up a Couchbase container, whether it's running locally on my MacBook or on cloud or on Docker container, whatever it is, I can just configure a Couchbase server here very easily. So that's one of the ways. Now, is that something that you would recommend, or you would expect a more native integration?
No, I mean, well, I mean, maybe we can start by so now that you have this Couchbase driver registered, what can you do with it? I mean, can you show me an application that you've created where you make use of this?
I did not use an application. So what I can do is I can go here. I can say new connection, and before I do that, let me go to my terminal here. In my terminal, I'm going to open up. I'm going to open up a new one here. Okay. So let's see what Docker machine are running here. I have a few Docker machines running. So let me create a new Docker machine. Docker machine create -d virtual box, and I'm going to call it as NetBeans. Okay. So once I create this Docker machine, in this Docker machine, I can quickly fire up a Couchbase server. And once I have the Couchbase server up and running here, then using that JDBC driver, I can just very easily connect to this JDBC driver. And that's pretty much all I could do. I wanted to, I mean, the whole fact that I could show Couchbase configured in NetBeans was a big joy for me. So that's where it starts, but it wasn't very functional as such. From my application, I couldn't I couldn't do anything, because my application was in its own state without aware of that there's a Couchbase server being configured in NetBeans. So as I was saying earlier, once I have, Couchbase server configured here, the first thing that I would like to do is, like today, if I expand JavaDB, okay, it shows me there's a sample database. What I would like to see is if my Couchbase server is configured here, if I expand it, can it show me the Couchbase buckets, for example?
Yeah, exactly. So the code, the code that you showed just now, that code that you showed, that cluster Couchbase cluster create statement, that is what we would need to do from that node. We would need to have a node in that services window that says Couchbase, and when you try and expand it, we should look for the buckets within the cluster and display each of those buckets in a node hierarchy.
Correct. Yeah, and so Evan, you were saying, so should I click on the Couchbase cluster class now and take a look at that? And that shows more details about how to get the buckets.
Yes, well, I mean, the code that you were looking at on the documentation, that tells you how to connect to a bucket, to add a document to a bucket. And if you look at if you follow the link to the Couchbase cluster class, that will tell you how to. There are methods in there for getting a list of buckets.
So I go here. Open bucket.
Go back up a bit. Go back up to the code.
Okay.
There was a snippet of code at the top of this Java doc. Here. Stop here.
Here it says open bucket though. It still doesn't show me the list of buckets. I don't want to open the bucket yet.
Yeah. So is there like a get buckets method call?
That's what I'm looking at.
There is. I don't remember precisely where it is, but I know I've used it, so it's.
So I see open bucket. Say create. I see cluster manager. Do you think it's maybe in a different class?
It might be in a different class. It's been a little while since I've done that. So,
okay. What do you recommend we should do? Which of the classes should we look at? So I see.
Let's see. I'm looking through my own code right now. So.
I'm looking at bucket, for example. Maybe say bucket manager. It says create index, drop index, flush, get design document, info, list indexes. No, none of that is here. Bucket info, node list, number of nodes on the bucket. Nope. Name of the bucket. Nope. Default bucket info. Those are the classes. Async bucket manager. So okay, Gideon, while Eben is looking at which class we need to look at in terms of how do you get the list of buckets, if anybody were to start with a brand new NetBeans plugin, what is it that they would need to do?
Right. So maybe we can switch to my to me presenting.
Yeah. So I'm gonna stop sharing here. On the bottom of your link, you will see say something share screen, and then you are the presenter.
Do you see my screen?
I see your pretty face, not the screen yet.
Trying.
Yeah.
Share screen. Oh, okay. So here's NetBeans, right?
It's loading. There you go. I see a beautiful dark colored NetBeans. Yeah.
Right. So so what we want to have eventually is some kind of node hierarchy within the databases node here.
Right.
That's kind of what we're going for. Okay, so when you create a NetBeans module, you can either create it using Maven or using Ant.
Okay.
And for the moment, I would suggest, because we're just getting started and we're experimenting, it might be best to start with an Ant-based NetBeans module. And once we get serious and we know what we're doing and where we're going, then we go for Maven. But so just to keep things simple and so we don't have to download the whole internet and stuff like that, I would suggest we first go for an Ant-based NetBeans module. So
nice.
I'll call this one.
Is that an approach that you recommend for everybody?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you're experimenting, when you're learning, it makes sense to first go for the Ant approach. And if you like Maven, then go for Maven once you've finished prototyping and you want to go ahead and create something serious that you want, if you want to make use of Maven. I would not suggest to start with Maven initially unless you, I don't see there's a reason for that.
Okay, so what I'll do is, I'm gonna, if you hold on 1 second, I am gonna switch myself. I can share my screen. Nope, I don't. Well, you are sharing already. So what I'm gonna do is, in the background, I'm gonna go to GitHub, and I am gonna go to my GitHub repository here. I am going to create a new repository here, and I'm gonna call it as Couchbase NetBeans plugin. NetBeans plugin for Couchbase, and I'm going to create a repository, and in that repository what I'm going to do is I'm going to add collaborators, and in terms of those collaborators, Evan, what is your ID for GitHub?
I think it's Eben.
Eben Hibbert. And just one word, right?
Yes.
It's not Okay, there you go. Add collaborator. And Gijun, what's yours for GitHub? Oh, there you go. I see. I see you. Gijun Valenga is one word.
Yep.
Okay. So I've added both of you as collaborators. Yeah, I've added both of you as collaborators over there. So this is the GitHub repository where we can evolve the code. So I'm gonna go to my terminal, and I am gonna git clone it, and I'm also gonna post a link in the chat window here.
All right.
If I go here, in the chat window, I'll post a link. So you both have the link to the Git repository. So you can clone it, and that's where we can create the Ant project and start experimenting, so that hopefully by the time we end this, we have something working up there, and that's what people can try with.
Okay, so I have now in my favorites window, which I found really useful, a Couchbase folder.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so what I've done right now, this is also useful.
Let me ask you quickly one thing. You showed a favorite window. That's a quick way people can access in NetBeans any of the folders that they want to manage.
Yeah, it's gives you access to the whole file system. You can choose any folder in the file system, multiple folders, whatever you like, and put them into NetBeans so that you have easy access to them. And also, what I'm doing right now is I'm pressing Alt, Shift, and L, which copies to the clipboard the full path to that folder.
Lovely.
And because I've done that, I can now, when I create my module, so I'll say a Couchbase. I'll just call this a Couchbase demo.
Well, there is a GitHub repository that you can clone, and then in there, if you can make the project, that'll be great. So from NetBeans,
yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that in a second.
Okay.
I'm going to do that. So I'll create this couch.org. So normally, so I've given it a name, and now we give it a code name base, which is the unique name of this module. And what that is by convention is the reverse of the company URL. So couchbase.com. So here we will say com.couchbase .nb plugin, something like that.
And is NB plugin the standard notation that you use?
No, I mean it's hard at this point. Com.couchbase. So we're kind of just figuring things out at the moment. We haven't decided what features we want to have yet. So we're just kind of just experimenting. But you would maybe have something like support, or I don't know. It depends what we want to do ultimately. But
so let me ask a question. Evan, if we were to make a Java package here, what would that package name look like following Couchbase conventions?
Yeah. I don't think we have Couchbase conventions.
Okay, then.
Or if we do, I'm the wrong person to ask.
Okay, no worries. Then let's make one. Couchbase. Let's start with NB plugin, and then when we get to Maven, then we can revisit that part.
Exactly. Once we get to Maven, we'll have something different anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so finish. Oh, and I should have put it into that folder, but I didn't. I'm just going to save time and just delete it and actually create it into the folder that I wanted to create it in.
That's fine.
Okay, so Alt Shift L, create the module again. I'll put it into that location.
Yeah.
And Couchbase. What shall we call it? NetBeans Couchbase.
Yeah.
Couchbase NB. Fine. That should be fine. Okay, so now here it is. So now I'll check it into GitHub. And here, what was the, okay.
We seem to lose your screen once in a while, every now and then.
I know, I'm just sharing NetBeans, nothing else.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I could share my whole screen as well. Let me do that. I'm not sure where. I'm stopping sharing right now. I'm going to share screen again, and I'll share the entire screen. So now I can see everything.
That way we know you're not watching
GitHub.
the screen.
So right now you can see this is our repository, right?
Right.
Okay. So I'll just copy this to the clipboard. Then I go into NetBeans and I'll say team git initialize repository. Okay, repository is initialized. And then I'll commit locally. First check-in of plugin.
Now, because aren't those, your machine dependent, or would they work on my machine as well?
It will work on any machine. It should be fine.
Okay.
I'll just commit this, and it's committed locally, and now I'll push it to the remote repository.
So this entire Git workflow works very well from within NetBeans itself.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
So now I go back into the browser, and here's my check-in. Done.
Ta-da! Fantastic.
Okay. So now that we have this first starting point, we want to basically figure out the best place to hook the Couchbase support into NetBeans. And there is a virtual file system throughout the whole of NetBeans that we can plug UI components into. The way we get into that virtual file system is via a file called XML layer. And if you're in the new file dialog,
hold on. Tell me more about the virtual file system. What is this virtual file system?
Yeah, I'm telling you. So whenever NetBeans starts up, each module that makes up NetBeans and each module that is installed into it can provide an XML file which NetBeans merges together. So each module provides at most one of these XML files, and NetBeans takes all of those separate XML files and merges them into an in-memory virtual file system. And each folder in that file system is predefined. Plus, you can add your own. So, for example, there's one top level folder called menu, and every folder within that menu folder becomes a menu in the menu bar. And there's a top level folder called toolbars, and every folder within the toolbars folder becomes a toolbar within NetBeans. And there is also such a thing for the different components of the services window.
Okay. So that's very intuitive. It's very well aligned. It's very well aligned with the NetBeans layout itself.
Yes. And what's interesting about the services window is that each of these nodes, so in NetBeans terminology, these are called nodes, and each of these nodes have their own APIs and have their own way of being loaded. And we're interested in this part, in the databases part. And it's convenient that within NetBeans we can create one of these XML files, because NetBeans has tooling to explore that XML file, and we can see the folders within that virtual file system within NetBeans once we have this XML file. So I'll show you this. So I'm now saying new XML layer. But what you see here, these are the files that I have most recently used. So normally you would not have XML layer in this list when you go to new, because if you haven't created this before, you won't see this. So you go to new and other, and you'll see module development, and there you see at the end XML layer.
So,
so this is the file.
That's a very standard NetBeans feature, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the file within which we can register new UI components to be displayed within NetBeans thanks to the installation of this plugin. And so right now it's empty. But the point that's interesting here is that we can explore this XML file. And I'm doing this right now. So you can see here inside important files, there is this layer, which is empty, but there is this layer in context. And what we see here is a merge of all of the folders within the file system of NetBeans IDE that I have running right now. So if I am trying to figure out where something should be plugged into NetBeans without knowing where it should be plugged in, one thing I would do is I would look inside of this layer in context, and I would look through here and I would see, hey, there's something called databases here. In this case, we're interested in databases. So what's in here? So you can have a look in here and you can see here, okay, there's a whole bunch of folders in here that we can see, and maybe we can hook into something in here.
Right.
See here that there's this Derby instance, for example.
So this is where, for example, I could say, if you install the Couchbase plugin, then with this plugin, I will give you the JDBC driver. I will have a Couchbase instance pre-configured for you and all of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, this is an initial thing that you can do when you're first creating any kind of plugin for NetBeans. Is just take a look through here. For example, there's a menu bar folder, and you can see that the folders here mirror the folders, the menus I see here in the menu bar. So there's a file menu, and here there's a file folder, and you can see here that here are these entries which match the menu items that I can see in the menu bar. So this is a nice, easy initial step when you're creating a plugin.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing is there is a lot of documentation. So I would go to netbeans.org as starting point. Of course, this is the entry page for everything that relates to NetBeans. And now what we are focused on is the NetBeans platform. So we click on this link here, and you can see here old documentation, and there are many tutorials. Also, 5 simple ways to extend NetBeans. What we're doing now with Couchbase is not something simple. It's not one of the scenarios treated in here. This is about the menu bars and the toolbars and things like that. But there's a lot of documentation, tutorials of various kinds. You can see also here there's the API or the Java doc. And I happen to know that there is something that I think will be very useful. Services tab node registration.
Nice.
So this is an annotation that you can put on top of a certain kind of class, and that will then put that a UI representation within the services window.
Okay. And what is the purpose of that class, though?
So that class will take, so you can see here this annotation is applicable to any class that extends node. So these are all called nodes. So if I have a class that is called node that has an annotation services tab node registration, then that node will appear within this window.
Got it.
And
okay.
At that point, we will not have the node within the databases node, but I would suggest for a first pass of this plugin, we will simply create a high-level node called Couchbase, and we will use that node to make our initial connection to a Couchbase server and get the buckets Later on, we will figure out the way to get this into the databases node. But as an initial pass-through, we will simply have something visible in here.
Right. So, and I think that's a very clean approach and a simple approach. Let's not start getting bogged down into the UI details.
Exactly.
Let's get something plugged into NetBeans to begin with, and then we'll worry about exactly placing it.
Exactly.
Okay. Sounds
exactly.
good.
This is really a very, very nice and simple approach. So,
now, Gideon, I just want to do a time check here. We have about 9 more minutes till top of the hour.
Okay.
So let's see how much we can do. We also want to push the code.
Okay.
As people are following this screencast, they can actually try something out. So let's see what we can do today in those 9 minutes.
Okay. So I think we can get some code done. So we can see that we need a class called node, and that it should have this annotation on the top of it. So we will create a class called Couchbase root node. Okay. So this will be the root, and inside of that there will be different buckets and those kinds of things, and it will extend. We would take the simplest node class, which is called abstract node. It's basically a default node at this point. And we can see that right now we cannot get the import statement because we haven't registered inside of our module the dependency inside of which that node class is found. So we need to depend on a certain module that provides this particular class. And we can search for that particular module. You can see here, search module dependency for abstract node.
Yeah.
And so the search is done.
So this is an AND-based project, so it will basically pull that dependency.
Yeah. So now we're waiting. So initially this will take some time, as we're seeing right now. So we need Nodes API. Here it is. So we now have registered here a Nodes API module.
Right.
So now we have the import statement, and we need a constructor here. And right now we're not going to have any children, so we're going to have bucket node children eventually once we have buckets. But for the moment we will not have any children, so we say children leaf, and we say set display name couch base root. So what we want to have is to have that displayed within the services window, and we know that we need this annotation to do that. So I'm going to take this annotation, put it here, and again we don't have that particular class, so we can search for that class, and we can see core IDE is what we need.
Now this is an AND-based project, so it's basically adding those libraries to the project itself. If it were to become a Maven-based project, it will add those relevant dependencies, and all of them are existing in Maven Central.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, on line 12, you want to change the spelling of Couchbase, fix that thing maybe as well.
I'm sorry?
It becomes a Couchbase as opposed to Couchbase.
Where?
Line 12. There's an additional E between couch and base.
So we need here, what do we need here?
Now, does the display name have a default value, or do I need to specify that?
You see, what's useful about these annotations is that we can see what the problem is here. So the annotation is asking for default values for the elements name, display name, and icon resource. So we need a name. So this is what I like about annotations, that we can do some error checking.
Yeah, but one of the things I believe in is a lot of defaults. So don't you think the name and the display name could be defaulted as well?
It could be. It's not though.
That's okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. So display name, and we need some icon resource. So this is what will be the icon of this particular thing. So do we have a Couchbase icon that we can use?
We do.
Couch. And usually put it off the website.
Couchbase icon. Which one do we want?
Is first one okay, Eben?
I think so.
The first one is good, yeah.
Yes, that's what we're using commonly.
Yeah. And so this icon into the plugin itself.
I'm just going to put it in there 1 second.
Okay, so now we have an icon here.
Make it a bit smaller.
Yeah. Ooh, it's big. And it's also not transparent.
It's good enough for the moment.
Okay, that's okay. Well, we can hack this later.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I will file a bug in the meanwhile on our
Couchbase NB Couchbase icon. Okay. So we should now have the basics. I mean, this is all we need for the moment. So now since we don't have much time left, this is a good point to maybe finish the code. Yeah. And we'll just run this module, which means that a new instance of NetBeans is going to start up.
I see.
Once we have satisfied our new dependencies here, so we're making reference to a lookup. We can see this in the output window that there are still some problems.
Yeah.
So lookup is one of them. So let's run it again.
And where is this lookup coming from? Because we added only one class.
Yes, because lookup is actually used here. We're not actually using it ourselves, but under the hood, this node class is using. So this is basically the equivalent to what's it called? A transigent dependency in Maven.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Basically that.
Okay.
So a dependency of one of our dependencies. Okay. Okay, so here we go.
Oh, nice.
So a new instance of NetBeans starts up, and this plugin that we have now created is going to be installed into that new instance.
Oh, so we are starting a NetBeans from NetBeans.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, in that sense, it's just treated like any other Java application.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, NetBeans is just another Java application. We're starting it up, and we're installing our module into it.
And will this module be installed in NetBeans going forward on your machine, or do you have to do something special?
There it is.
Oh, look at that! Woo!
Yay! We have Couchbase support in NetBeans. Hooray!
Super cool. And that is damn simple. I mean, one of the things about NetBeans, I love the simplicity of the whole thing. That is just amazing, and that's the reason I'm sticking with NetBeans all along. But what people don't realize is how simple it is to build even a plugin. That's pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah, it's a nice way to end our first screencast.
Eben had a question.
Well, I was just wondering. So on your machine, if you from now on when you run NetBeans, will that show up, or do you have to do something special to make it show up?
Whenever I restart this particular instance of NetBeans IDE, the plugin will not be installed into it right now. But what I can do is, so what I just did is I ran the module, which means a new instance of NetBeans starts up and the module is installed. What I can also do is I can say install reload into development IDE. When I do that, look what happens. I install it right now into my running instance, and there it is.
Bam! Fantastic. That is really cool. That is really cool. So, okay, excellent.
So one other thing, just before we wrap up, in the chat window of the BlueJeans, I put in the Maven where you can point to get the Java SDK for Couchbase. And
Okay.
I had the wrong one the first time, so look at the second message I sent. So that's where you can find that. And also I looked up how to get the list of buckets. So you start with a Couchbase cluster, and then from that Couchbase cluster, you can create an object which is called a cluster manager, and that is where you can get the list of buckets.
Lovely. So I guess this.
So we can work on that next time.
Perfect. So this time, what we got running
so
is
where's that information?
I'm sorry. So we have this basic Couchbase thing running in there, and next Friday, if this time works, we'll look at a time which will work for all of us. Then what we'll do is we'll start integrating where Eben can guide us on how do we get that list of buckets, start querying, and build a little bit more functionality in there.
Perfect.
Yeah, awesome. Any questions for you, Eben, last minute? Gidjan, for you?
Nothing from me.
And this is an outstanding start of the weekend for me. I'm super excited. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Take care, Gidjan.
Talk
Have a
to you
good
soon.
weekend. Bye.
You too. Bye.